end zone, underthrown, touchdown, Trey Tucker. To the end zone it goes, caught, touchdown, Armon
Bearcat Blitz on the Believe Network, taking you into a Houston game weekend for the Cincinnati Bearcats basketball team. I'm your host of Bearcat Blitz, Russ Heltman from Cincinnati Bearcats on SI, joined very shortly by my co-host Neil Meyer from the frontofficenews.com, and we are presented by FanDuel Sportsbook, where you can bet on the Big 12 champion for the 2025-26 regular season. Arizona, a prohibitive favorite entering the weekends, still undefeated overall this campaign, absolutely cooking in the Big 12. They hold minus 220 odds to lift the regular season trophy in the conference, and Houston right behind them. They are the only two teams with sub odds below 10-1. Houston at plus 420, Arizona at minus 220, and then you got Iowa State there at 10-1 for the top three odds on the FanDuel Sportsbook board. Head to FanDuel Sportsbook today to make wagers on the NBA, NHL, college basketball. The PGA Tour is back. I think there's UFC going on this weekend as well. Big Paramount Plus debut for UFC starting off this year. So fans don't have to pay pay-per-view prices for that product anymore. That's good to see. And, of course, the Super Bowl next Sunday, Seahawks, Patriots. FanDuel, I'm sure, going to have a ton of great promos going on for that as we get closer and closer to the big game. And we got a big game for the Bearcats coming up in less than 36 hours. We will recap a 67-57 win for Cincinnati. Neil and I both predicted a loss. The Bearcats proved us wrong on that front, although the offense didn't really prove anyone wrong. It was more so just a clamping defensively that helped them shut down Dan Skillings and the Baylor Bears. We'll talk about that, and we will preview and predict the latest contest against Houston, who has won 10 consecutive games over Wes Miller and the Bearcats. All that coming up on Bearcat Blitz after these messages. Neil, Cincinnati got the job done on Wednesday night in the return of Dan Skillings. Good showing for the Bearcats and a historic showing from Baba Miller in this game. UC wins 67-57 in no small part thanks to Baba Miller's contributions here. 18 points, 17 rebounds, and 3 assists. Miller, according to UC Athletics, Neil, became the second player this season in the Big 12 to post a stat line of 17 plus points, 16 plus rebounds, and at least 3 assists to join Justin Jefferson from Iowa State. And he's just the third Bearcat to do that since the 1996 season started, joining Eric Hicks and Kenyon Martin in that sense. He stayed away from the three-point line, Neil, for the most part. Only took 1 3. Once again, missed that 3. I don't think he should shoot any or more threes the rest of the season. He's so much more effective around the rim and running the floor, attacking the basket for rebounds. Got 5 offensive rebounds in this one, 12 on the other end of the floor, and just help power. Another great defensive showing as well from this team. They completely shut down Cameron Carr, his worst game of the season by far. The first time, Neil, that Carr's been held below 10 points. I talked about him being an upgrade over Mo Odom. That was incorrect as it played out in the game on Wednesday night, as he was horrendous. A minus 7.6 box plus minus with just 4 points on 1 of 11 shooting in this game. Dan Skillings didn't play very well either. He missed 4 or 5 right at the rim baskets. Like Bearcats fans are used to seeing him miss throughout his career here in Cincinnati. He finishes 5 of 12 from the floor, 10 points. Baylor led by Tunde Yusufu with 16 points on 6 of 14 shooting. They're held to 35% from the floor, Neil, in what was probably the best defensive performance for this Bearcats team all season, shutting down a top 25 offense entering the contest.
Yeah, Russ, overall, it was a great defensive performance for Cincinnati. But before we talk about the game a little bit from my end, I know we talked about it heading into this one. We expected Dan to get some boos there. But Russ, the Boo Birds have been loud all season long in pregame introductions for Wes Miller. But did you expect Dan's booing to be a little bit louder than what the crowd gave Wes in his homecoming?
No, there's no reason to boo Dan more than Wes Miller. Wes Miller's the reason why the team has not made the NCAA tournament over the past 5 years. He's the guy who's calling all the shots. He's the guy making all the decisions. And I think he would agree the responsibility lays at his feet for why the program is not where it's supposed to be.
Yeah, well, the boos were a little bit louder for Dan, in my
And
opinion.
they, I mean, they
In
booed
in
him
that,
all game. Every time he
yeah,
touched the
and
ball,
that's what
they
I was
booed
about
him.
to
I mean,
expect.
I think they got
We
enough of the
expected
booze
the
out.
we expected the boos to come out for Dan, but I did not expect him to get booed every time he touched the
But
ball.
you know what? I kind of like that's
But
kind of
that's
good
that's
good opposing fan. Yeah, I mean,
that's
I talked
basketball
about
nowadays,
how
though.
fans shouldn't necessarily boo him before the game, but you know what? I mean, that was kind of a fun aspect of the contest.
Mhm.
In a season that's felt so much the same, Neil, in a season that is just barreling towards a 15 and 16 or 16 and 15 record overall, to get something different in these matchups was fun.
Yeah, and I think the biggest takeaway from this game too, Russ. Obviously, you mentioned Cameron Carr being held to just 4 points. I thought Day Thomas and Jizzle James did a fantastic job on him,
Huge
but it
bounce
was
back night for them coming back from
Mhm.
Arizona.
And it was good to see the three ball fall for Jizzle James too. Probably his best 3-point shooting acclimate of the season or of his career, maybe 5 of 6
Yeah,
from
I'll look it
behind
up
the
real
arc.
quick. I don't think he's ever hit 5 plus 3s in a game. I'm gonna find that real
But the
quick though.
big the biggest takeaway for me was for Cincinnati to how are they going to respond after being stuck in Arizona 2 extra days longer than they needed to, and then you come back, you get a shoot around in and a light practice in before this matchup. Russ, when we heard that, we weren't really sure what to expect from this Cincinnati team coming off the hangover from Arizona and Arizona State. I mean, that's a 2 hour time difference, and then you come back to Cincinnati, you're 70, 75 and sunny out there in lovely Arizona, and then you come back to Cincinnati and it's 0 degrees and 2 feet of snow essentially. So that was cool to see them bounce back, especially Russ, where you find out Sincere Harris isn't going to be able to go about an hour before tip off. He was out with an illness. They tried to get him right, wasn't able to after a couple IVs. It sounds like he just wasn't able to go. Tyler McKinley is nowhere near 100% healthy and was unable to play the second half. Sean Abayev's now going to be out for an extended period of time, we've learned, with a knee injury. And then on top of it, Kirk Reese has been banged up. So you're down 4 guys, essentially. And then you come in and you have that kind of performance. I like that aspect. I like how the group came together. But Russ, what I didn't like about this game was you're winning majority of the game. You control most of the game. But there was opportunities for Baylor to come back and take this game from Cincinnati because Cincinnati did not hit a field goal the final 7 minutes of this one. Usually when teams go 4 or 5 minutes down the stretch without a field goal, they lose that game. 7 minutes alone and Cincinnati was able to come back out with a victory is huge, but Baylor didn't do them any justice with how they were shooting the basketball in that final 8 to 10 minutes of this game as well either.
No doubt. And we'll get to that in just a second. As you mentioned, Jizzle James, a high mark for threes, very close. He actually hit 6 of 8 threes in the BYU win last season in February. And this was tied for the second most in his career, the third time now that he has hit 5 plus 3s in a game. And Cincinnati is 3-1 when Jizzle hits at, or 3-2, excuse me, when Jizzle hits at least 4 threes in a game. So not a ton to read into there, but good to see from Jizzle nonetheless. And Neil, it's a great point. It's why I can't get too excited. It's good to win. It's good to get a win. It's good to see these guys respond. It's good to see that the fight is still there. And with about a month and 10 days left in the season, I don't see these guys giving up or anything like that. I don't see them rolling over and starting to just get absolutely worked and beat down by some of these more difficult opponents they're going to face the rest of the season. Not the same as a Baylor team that came into this contest 1-6 and is clearly reeling right now in their 2025-26 season. But like you mentioned, I mean, 7 minutes without a field goal. Baylor, Neil, I would say missed 4 or 5 wide open threes in this game. It's a 10-point contest. You hit 3 of those. It's a completely different game down
Mhm.
the stretch here. And we'll talk about it more in the Houston preview, but just wrapping up this contest, it can't just be Baba Miller. It cannot just be Baba Miller scoring consistently for this team. Jizzle James performed well, and they needed every minute of his offensive performances, offensive contributions here, because nobody else really stepped up. I mean, you look once again at the box score, it's a lot of Cham, it's a lot of Baba Miller, and nobody else. I mean, Mustafa Cham, very good in this game once again, 6 of 12 from the field. It looks like the Twin Towers are where Cincinnati's going to have to focus their shot profiles most effectively, because nobody else can consistently hit jump shots on this team. Cham, Jizzle James, and Baba Miller, each with 14 plus points. Nobody else had 9 in this game. And you look at Cincinnati overall in this contest, 8 of 29 from deep, 27.6%. Not going to get it done consistently from deep if you're shooting like that. 38.7% shooting overall. Again, horrific shot making numbers from this offense, which is now back down to 217th nationally in adjusted efficiency on KenPom. And on the other side, it's just, you cannot expect your opponent to go 6 of 26 from deep as often as UC seemingly needs them to go to have a real winning shot in this conference. You look at where they're sitting right now, Neil, last in field goal percentage in the Big 12 in conference play, and last in 3-point percentage. You can't be at the bottom of both those numbers and expect a nice win against Baylor to turn into a winning streak, especially when you have Houston on the road as your next opponent.
Yeah, and especially with how Houston has been playing for the last 6-7 years.
Right.
So it's going to be...
And the win against Iowa State, Neil, which was by far their best offensive performance, 136 adjusted offensive rating on Bart Torvik. That's 17 points higher than any other offensive rating, single game offensive rating this season. But Neil, we know that Iowa State team is very good, but they haven't been as consistent and as top of the league level as Houston has been all season long. It's similar to Arizona and the level of jump up and competition that you experience going from an Iowa State to Arizona. It's not as high of a jump to Arizona, the way that they're playing as the best team in the nation right now, but it's still a pretty significant jump in quality.
Yeah, and when you look at Houston too, just the way Kelvin Sampson has dominated Cincinnati over the years. I mean, Cincinnati had the opportunity to get that win versus Houston at the beginning of the month to Big 12 play, but couldn't close out the final 4 minutes. And that was a huge missed opportunity for Cincinnati. And now that the fact is they have to go on the road to Houston, where Houston has not lost a game this season at home, if I remember correctly. So overall, it's not an easy task, especially when Wes Miller is on the outside looking in as 0-10 versus Houston. It's going to be incredibly challenging, but they're going to know they're going to have to have everybody fully healthy and locked in, ready to go. You mentioned Baba Miller and Mustafa Cham. You know you're going to have big nights from those two games, but for Cincinnati, they're going to need another big night from Jizzle James. They're going to need Day Thomas to step up. They're going to need some production from Sincere Harris if he is able to go out there and get over the illness. They're going to need any kind of production from top to bottom, 10 to 11 guys who's ever out there playing per se. They're going to need every single bit of that roster to go on the road and get a win versus Houston. Because, Russ, you hear these matchups. Wes Miller mentioned it. Scott Satterfield has mentioned the term in the past. Going into it, it's fighting in a phone booth. I wouldn't even consider it fighting in a phone booth with how much Houston has dominated this matchup anymore. It is like a David versus Goliath kind of matchup, because that is how good and how physical Houston is, especially at home. It's going to be a big opportunity, but if Cincinnati can put some things together and build off the momentum from the Baylor game, it could get interesting. But I still think this is a game where Houston is just so dang good with the way Kingston Flemings has been leading that backcourt right now. I think that's a matchup that's going to present a lot of problems for Cincinnati come Saturday.
Preview that game in just a moment. Real quick before we move to our preview portion of the episode. Cyrus Allen, Neil, we got to talk about it. Turning heads at the Senior Bowl, rising star there. Not surprising to me. I mean, Cyrus Allen can get open, man. He's getting underlooked because he's 5'11" or 5'10", 180 pounds. That's the biggest reason why I don't think he got really any hype throughout the season. But one of the top touchdown scorers in the country, top 5 nationally in touchdowns, tied the program record for Cincinnati with, I think, 51 catches, 674 yards, and that program record tying 13 touchdown mark across 13 total games this season. He's separating at will against these other Senior Bowl cornerbacks, Neil. He's showing off his ability to, in-game play, really make some things happen on the football field. Cyrus Allen, on the mock draft database consensus big board, Neil, he's sitting at about 240th as of when I wrote the article last night about Cyrus, and I would be shocked if he does not creep towards the top 200 or firmly inside the top 200 and become a pretty entrenched day 3 draft pick option for some teams down the line. Maybe Cincinnati. The Bengals could use a slot go-to player. They could use some competition in the back end of that wide receiver room, and they are going to be picking in the top 10 of the 6th round and the 7th round. So maybe Cyrus Allen could be staying home with one of those Bengals picks at the back end of the draft. But Neil, I think he's gone from a guy who's going to be an undrafted free agent to quickly and swiftly rising into a draftable talent, no doubt, to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely, Russ. And I mean, it's just one of those situations where an opportunity presents itself and you go and make the best of it.
Yeah.
Right? He was one of those guys who got the opportunity to go down to the East and West Shrine Bowl. I was actually talking to player
And he got a late invite, right, to the Senior Bowl.
late invite to the Senior Bowl. And I was talking to Eric Galko, the director of player personnel for the Shrine Bowl, and he was really excited to see Cyrus out there. So overall, Cyrus goes down there and kills it. I mean, people, when you see these clips, Russ, it is no surprise to any of us who covered this team and covered Cyrus that he was able to create that separation on these routes. Like, he has such quick feet, great speed, great ability to create that separation and beat people right off the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, like he's not a contested catch guy at all.
And then but he has shown that at the Senior Bowl.
Right.
So that was,
I mean, like, as in the sense of consistently getting his production. It's not, it's less Jeff Caldwell go up and high point the ball in traffic. It's more, like we mentioned, creating separation and getting a open target for Sorsby to throw to all year.
Yeah, and that's huge for Cyrus because I know you and I both know pretty well from covering him. He went down there, took advantage of his opportunity. Sure, there was a little bit of trash talk between DBs when he was beating them off the line, knowing Cyrus, but then you ball out and you get an opportunity to go to the Senior Bowl. I mean, that's where your eyes are at, the Senior Bowl, right? That's the biggest postseason bowl opportunity for these players looking to make the next jump, and to get a late invite and then go down there and continue to turn heads. I mean, we've seen it on Twitter for the last 2 weeks, Cyrus Allen turning heads, Cyrus Allen with a great rep here or great separation here off the line. He is going to be a guy, Russ, that went from undrafted to potentially a late 6th, early 7th round pick, potentially, with that ceiling still climbing. And I said it last night on 700 WLW with Mike Petralia. That's a huge credit to newly promoted Cincinnati wide receivers coach VJ Stingley. We have heard all season long about guys raving about the job that Stingley has done with this program and getting these guys ready to make that next jump. And it shows. That's why Stingley got promoted to wide receiver coach. So overall, it's exciting to see Cyrus take this next jump. But Russ, I think he's going to turn some heads, and I would be surprised if he goes undrafted in the NFL draft here in April.
I would too. I would be pretty surprised if he goes undrafted. It's just that you can't teach separation like that. You can't. And it's almost always the same story, Neil. It's these undersized guys, these older guys. Cyrus, a very veteran player, obviously was maybe searching for one last year of eligibility, but decided to go to the NFL draft. The veteran guys get overlooked. The hard workers get overlooked, and the guys that don't necessarily wow with their physical ability get overlooked. But if you can get open, you're going to carve out a role in the NFL. That's just the bottom line. Ask Alec Pierce. I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown is kind of a guy that reminds me of Cyrus Allen. Neil wasn't highly touted coming out of school, was kind of I think he was more of a 2nd or 3rd round draft pick. Not going to be that high for Cyrus Allen, but a smaller guy, plays primarily in the slot, and can get open, just gets open, able to find separation and really work the route tree to his advantage. So I'm not saying he's going to produce like Amon-Ra St. Brown, but maybe an Amon-Ra St. Brown light version is what you could see for our guy Cyrus Allen. Love Cyrus Allen. Neil and I both do. I think he would agree with me on that. He was so much fun to cover this past season. So
Such a
wishing
good
him.
personality
He
too.
is. He was the best personality I thought on the team in terms of just him and Jeff Caldwell. Those two guys. No
Jeff
no
Caldwell was a good
no
personality.
shock it came from the wide receiver room, as that's historically the case. But those two guys were a lot of fun to cover, and were they would get strong candidate status for my media award of the year for the Bearcats players. As we take a quick break here on Bearcat Blitz and get to a Houston preview to close out the show, and the Super Bowl previews starting to flow out over the next few days or so. Seattle Seahawks versus New England Patriots. And on FanDuel Sportsbook, the Patriots are underdogs. Not great. Not great for my 125 to 1 Super Bowl ticket. We'll see if they can overcome the odds. And a little nugget on the Super Bowl. The Seattle Seahawks are favored by 4.5 points right now on the FanDuel Sportsbook, and minus 235 on the money line, while New England is plus 94 to lift the Lombardi Trophy. Head to FanDuel Sportsbook today and make your account, or log back in and continue the sports betting action on FanDuel Sportsbook and make your wager on the Super Bowl right there. FanDuel Sportsbook, head there as a great presenting sponsor of Bearcat Blitz. Be back after these messages. Neil Meyer with the Front Office News, of course, my co-host on Bearcat Blitz, and I'm your host, Russ Heltman from Cincinnati Bearcats on SI, trying to shake the monkey off the shoulder, Neil. Can they do it? Can they get the devil off of the shoulders here? 92.6% chance that it won't happen on ESPN's matchup predictor, as that's where they have Houston favored massively in this game. Just a 7.4% chance to pull off the road upset over Kelvin Sampson's team, which has won 10 consecutive games over Cincinnati and is currently ranked actually lower than Iowa State on the overall KenPom rankings. Although I said UC was playing a lesser ranked Iowa State team a couple weeks ago, because that's how they were playing. They were playing more like a top 30, top 25 team than where they sit right now at number 4 nationally. But Houston at number 6 on KenPom, and Cincinnati down at number 58. These teams profile very similarly on defense. Cincinnati actually has a higher defensive rating than Houston, 6th best nationally on defense. Houston 9th overall. But the offense is where these two teams divert heavily. You see 217th in adjusted offensive efficiency, while Houston is 15th nationally. And Neil, a team in Cincinnati that tries to win in similar ways to how Houston wins, it's just going to make it very difficult to me here to carve out a winning path. It starts with slowing down Kingston Flemings, just like it started with slowing down Cameron Carr the other night. UC didn't have an answer for Flemings a few weeks ago. I know he had 15 plus points, 5 plus assists in that game. He scored 89 points in his past 3 outings, and just represents a brutal matchup on the overall front for this Houston team going up, or for this Bearcats team going up against Houston. Like, unless Cincinnati starts shooting better, Neil, I don't see how they keep this game within single digits. They're last in field goal percentage, as I mentioned, 41.2% in conference play. I'm going to be only using conference play statistics from here on out, as that's the best way to kind of view these teams, as we're pretty deep into the conference slate at this point. And 3-point rate, they're 26.2% overall from 3 in conference play this season. Like, that has to improve. If they don't shoot close to 50% in this game and close to 35% from 3, there just simply won't be enough shots for Cincinnati to keep pace with a much more efficient offense in what's going to be a slow-paced game here. UC has not been able to dictate the pace in conference play so far under Wes Miller, really in any season. He's talked about wanting to play fast at the beginning of every season of basically his tenure. And what do you know, Neil? They're not playing fast once again for the 5th consecutive year. They're 120th nationally in adjusted tempo. That's kind of more towards middle of the pack in tempo than saying they're an up and down the court run and gun team. So I think this is going to be favoring more so the Cougars' level and speed of play here. 338th in adjusted tempo for Houston, and 51.6 shots attempted by the opponent per game in Houston contests. That's the fewest in the Big 12. There just will not be many chances for Cincinnati to overcome bad shooting by winning on the margins against the team that wins on the margins better than almost any team in the country. Not only this decade, but you could argue over the past 15 years. Look at the turnover side of things. Cougars forcing 13.7 turnovers per game and committing 6.9. Both are the best marks in the Big 12 so far this season. And they are allowing just 29.7 rebounds per game. That's third best in the conference. Neil, the math just doesn't work for me here, especially on the road. I know I just picked against the Bearcats and they proved us wrong on Wednesday night, but the offense still didn't show me any reason why I should be picking them to beat some of the best in the country. And I don't see Emmanuel Sharp playing as poorly as he did against Cincinnati a couple weeks ago in this game. I think he was the worst box plus minus player in the entire court in that game, and they still won pretty handily over the Bearcats by 7 points, and was never a doubt in the final few minutes. Kingston Flemings is red hot right now, 89 points in the past 3 games, as I mentioned. He'll continue ripping up things in the conference slate, and I think the Cougars get the job done here, 72-62. What do you got?
Yeah, Russ, obviously, this is going to be a game where you mentioned if the 3 ball does not fall for Cincinnati, this is not going to be a game they win, right?
No.
They're going to have to come out and they're going to have to
They're going to have to hit at least 12 threes to win the game.
Correct.
To win the
they're
game.
Gonna,
to keep pace, at least 9.
Yeah, they're going to have to hit double-digit threes in this game, so they're going to need some big-time buckets from guys like Day Thomas, Jizzle James, Jalen Celestine, and the list goes on and on. But they're going to need to knock down some shots if they want to win this game. But for me, Russ, the biggest takeaway is how does Cincinnati slow down Kingston Flemings? I mean, you look at his last 3 games, 42 versus Texas Tech. I mean, that's freaking impressive for a freshman, especially
Anybody.
yeah, anybody. And then on top of it, he follows back up with 27 in the team's win over TCU. I think the lowest in the 3-game stretch was 18, if I remember right. So he is a definition of a NBA caliber point guard. He will be going within the top 8 of the NBA draft this year. It's safe to say that that's a lock already. But the biggest takeaway, Russ, is too, how does Cincinnati, like Houston's offense is so dynamic. I mean, you have 3 elite guards, Emmanuel Sharp, bigger frame, Miles Uzan, veteran point guard, and then you have Kingston Flemings, who is taking the world by storm right now. So, I mean, Houston's backcourt is not going to give Cincinnati any leeway in that kind of category. They're going to make things difficult, so they're going to have to get to their shots. Now, if Cincinnati can get Houston into some foul trouble, especially at that guard position, that would be huge. But for Cincinnati, you're going to have to get 40 rebounds in this game. Mustafa Cham's going to have to need 10 rebounds. Baba Miller's going to need 10 to 12. But you're going to have to get some other rebounds from guys on this roster. You're going to have to win that battle of the glass if you want any chance of winning this game because of how physical Houston is. So for me, Russ, I think this is just a matchup where Houston is just so talented on paper. I mean, Cincinnati had a great game plan for them when they came here at the beginning of the year and just failed to execute down the final 4 minutes. It'll be interesting to see what was Houston able to take away from that and take into this matchup, or how does Cincinnati learn from that, and do they still implement what they did in the first one with a couple of different tweaks and changes on the defensive side of the ball? It's going to be interesting, but like you said, this is a game where I'm taking Houston to win it. Give me 74-62 in favor of the Cougars.
Good note there on the personal fouls. Houston 14th in the Big 12 so far in conference play, committing a whopping 18.7 fouls per game. Now, that can help the Bearcats, Neil, if they hit their free throws like they did against Baylor, something we also didn't talk about very much, but they went 11 of 14 from the line. Very uncharacteristic for a team that's shooting between 63 and 66%, depending on what point of the season you're looking at from the free throw line. One of the 20 worst teams in the country from the line overall this season. If they can hit a consistent amount from the line there, then that's another way they can keep this close and maybe forge some kind of winning path light in the darkness. But that's a very niche kind of pass to get a win, relying on the Houston Cougars to foul at will and get the W that way. We'll see how it plays out. Would be a lot of fun to talk about the first win and getting the monkey off the back of, in terms of Houston and the winning streak they have over the Cincinnati Bearcats. We'll cover it all early next week right here on Bearcat Blitz. Have a great weekend, everybody.